Hello, everyone. Omnisensei here with What If I Was Reborn as the Flash? The Fastest Man Alive. Part 2. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it. Barry walks into CCPD with his usual coffee in hand and sees the two officers from last night bragging about their catch last night. Congratulations, Paulson, on that arrest last night. Hell of a job. Joe walks up to them, congratulating them for the work they put no effort into. You come by later, Joe. I'll give you a driving lesson, okay? Paulson says, trying to act cool. You know it was me who caught that perp last night, right? Barry asks Joe, smiling. I figured, Joe says, smiling. I just didn't realize you were helping people for the glory, Joe says, pulling his leg. Now that you mention it, I won't mind having a museum built in my name, Barry says jokingly. Why, that's never gonna happen, Joe says. Crazier things have happened, Barry says. That you are right about, Joe says and laughs. Also, keeping what I can do a secret from everyone is getting hard, especially Iris. You know how relentless she is, Barry says. True that, but it is safer that way. Besides, me and you got work to do, Joe says, as they need to get to work on figuring out who killed Barry's mom. Barry's lab, Joe, and Barry are looking through the evidence from Barry's mom's case when Eddie walks in and calls them. Barry, Joe, we got multiple homicides. Do you know the Darbinian crime family? Eddie says. Let's go, Joe says, and the three make their way to the crime scene. Barry looks at the restaurant and remembers walking past it last night with Iris. Barry walks in and immediately begins noticing weird patterns. He puts on his gloves and gets to work. He goes through all the bodies and notices that all fell victim to exposure to poison gas. He then walks around the crime scene to find any other evidence, but finds none. After a while, Joe walks to him. Barry? Anything? Joe asks. Signs of histotoxic hypoxia. The cells in their bodies could not utilize oxygen. It's consistent with exposure to poison gas, Barry explains. What kind of poison? Joe asks. I'll need to take a lung sample, see if I can narrow it down, Barry says. The only other exit was bolted from the inside, Eddie says, walking up to Joe. They were trapped. I was thinking someone pumped gas in from the outside, but witnesses say the street was empty, Eddie says. Listening to Eddie's words and the weird positioning of the bodies, Barry comes up with his own theory. So it was from the inside? That means there should be a canister or a container left behind. The gas just didn't come in by itself, Joe says. Unless it had a mind of its own, Barry speaks up and then laughs, trying to pass his comment as a joke. Joe turns and sees the look on Barry's face. He realizes that Barry might be hinting toward something else. Eddie, would you mind canvassing again? Somebody had to have seen something suspicious, Joe says, making Eddie walk away. Okay, explain. Joe turns to Barry. The boss collapsed by the table. This guy made it 10 feet away. That guy had a chance to move off and fire 3 shots into the window, trying to break the glass. But they all started in the same spot, which means they should have been affected by the gas, but instead, it's as if they were attacked one by one, Joe says as he too begins seeing the pattern that Barry pointed out. Barry nods. My gut feeling, if we're gonna solve this one, you and me are gonna need backup, Joe says. Yeah, Barry agrees. They both arrive at Star Labs and see the team are up to nothing. Joe and Barry's arrival finally brings some hope to their boring day. Guys, we think we have found another meta, Barry says, immediately perking everyone up. Barry believes our meta is someone who can control poison gas, Joe says. Fascinating. A metahuman that can manipulate poison gas, Dr. Wells says. Is it just poisonous gas or can he control all aerated substances? Cisco asks. And how is he able to formulate the connection? Is it physiological or psychological? Caitlin joins in the discussion. Everyone trying to formulate a theory. This individual can create a mental nexus using gaseous substances, Dr. Wells their eyes. You mean connect with gases on a molecular level? Cisco asks. Yes, Dr. Wells says that is ridiculously cool. Cisco smiles with excitement. Seeing the team come up with a theory so soon, Joe gives Barry a weird look as he realizes that these people are far nerdier than Barry, which is a lot in his opinion. They get really excited about this stuff. Barry says, "The only thing I'm excited about is putting criminals behind bars." Except Iron Heights isn't exactly equipped to handle metahumans, Joe says. Then I guess it's fortunate that Mardon is dead and Black doesn't have the ability to break out of a regular cell, Dr. Wells says. Well, unless we're planning on executing every super criminal we stop, you geniuses are gonna have to come up with someplace else to hold them, Joe says. A metahuman prison, Cisco says. Until we figure a way to remove their powers, Dr. Wells says. I have been thinking about this ever since Barry caught Black. There is one place here that might hold them, Cisco says. Dr. Wells and Caitlin turn and look at Cisco because of his radical suggestion. You can't be serious? Caitlin says. I mean, we haven't been down there since. It's cordoned off, Caitlin says. Barry notices that she is panicked by this idea. Cisco's right. It could be modified to act as a makeshift prison, Dr. Wells says. What could? Barry asks, curious. The particle accelerator, Dr. Wells says. Barry looks at Caitlin once again and sees that she is genuinely afraid. Her face becomes pale by just thinking about that night. Must be trauma from that day, Barry thinks and is worried for her. Let's go down the accelerator ring and check it out, Dr. Wells says. Caitlin, he calls for her, but she doesn't answer. She seems to be lost in her own head. Caitlin, he calls her again, this time getting her attention. Did you hear me? We're going down to the accelerator ring, Dr. Wells says. He still doesn't get an answer. Actually, Dr. Wells, I could use Caitlin's help identifying the poison gas. Barry comes to her rescue. Dr. Wells looks at him and nods. Okay, he says. If that's okay with you. Barry asks Caitlin. Let's go, Caitlin says, smiling at Barry. She is extremely glad that Barry stepped up for her. She gets up from her chair and grabs her coat before joining Barry as they walk out of Star Labs. When they get outside, Barry stops and looks at Caitlin. What? She asks. Do you want to experience what it feels like to travel at super speed? Barry asks. What, now? I thought we were taking my car, Caitlin says. Cars are too slow. Come on, it will be fun. Plus, aren't you even a little curious about what it feels like? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at Barry, thinking it over, and finally gives in. Ever since she saw Barry run faster than humanly possible, she wanted to know what it felt like. Great, come closer, Barry says. Caitlin looks at him a little nervously and steps up close. Now put your hands around my neck, Barry instructs. Caitlin steps a little closer and wraps her hands around Barry's neck. Now their faces are right next to each other. Barry places his hand on her back and locks eyes with her. Caitlin gets a little flushed and her heart starts beating faster, having Barry's face so up close. Now I am going to lift you, get ready, Barry says and brings his other hand down, putting them behind her legs, and then he lifts her entirely off the ground in a princess carry. Ah! Caitlin yelps and tightens her hands around Barry's neck. Don't worry, I got you, Barry reassured her. Caitlin looks up at Barry's face and finds herself drawn to him. You ready? Barry asks. Caitlin takes a deep breath and nods her head. I'm ready, she says, letting out her breath. Barry smiles and enters super speed. The world around him slows down again. He looks down at Caitlin and sees her face frozen in anticipation. Too bad she can't experience super speed the way I do, Barry thinks. His power makes him see the world slow down when he moves fast, because not only does he have super speed, but he perceives times at super speed as well. A normal human can't do that. So Barry decides to keep his speed within human limits. Lightning flashes around Barry as he feels it coursing through his entire being, and then suddenly, something happens. Barry, he hears Caitlin call for him. Taken by surprise, Barry looks down at Caitlin and sees that she is moving along with him in super speed. Barry, what's going on? Caitlin asks as she sees the world around her frozen in place. She sees white lightning flashing around her and Barry. You are moving as fast as me, Barry says, bewildered. He didn't expect something like this to happen. How is this even possible? Caitlin asks, as she is fascinated by everything that is happening around her, or not happening around her. It's a little scary how they are the only ones moving right now. Is this what you see every time you run? Caitlin asks. Yes, it's cool, isn't it? Barry asks. How are you doing this? Caitlin asks. I don't know, I was thinking how you won't be able to experience the world the same way I do even if I run you as fast as possible, when suddenly this happened, Barry says. It's like you bestowed your powers on me. This opens up a whole new wormhole of possibilities. Are you the only one who can do this? Are there other meters who can bestow their powers onto others? Caitlin begins coming up with multiple theories. Hey, calm down, we can theorize all about it later. Let's head to my lab for now. So, you ready? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at the frozen world around her and nods her head with a smile. I'm ready. Barry smiles back and begins moving. Since Caitlin is somehow being influenced by his power, he doesn't have to hold back anymore. He runs and immediately breaks the sound barrier with Caitlin in his hands. Caitlin sees everything just zoom past her even though her perception of time has increased a lot from Barry's powers, but she still manages to see everything during those split seconds, the visual feelings being expressed on people's faces, the color of clothing they have on their body, moments caught in time that normal people never get to see. She even sees some bugs getting zapped by Barry's lighting and turning into dust as he runs into them. The feeling is exhilarating, and before she even knows it, they are at a back alley next to the CCPD. Barry stops, puts Caitlin down, and exits super speed. Caitlin returns to normal as well. As her foot touches the ground, she gets dizzy and almost falls, but Barry holds onto her by her waist. You okay? Barry asks. I'm fine. My body is not meant to handle super speed like yours, Caitlin concludes as she feels lightheaded. Once she regains her footing, she begins smiling from ear to ear with excitement. That was amazing, she says laughing as she looks at Barry. I know, right, Barry says smiling back. No wonder you run everywhere you go. It must be addicting, Caitlin says, staring into Barry's eyes. Yeah, Barry says staring back into hers. They look at each other in silence for a few seconds, almost lost amongst themselves. We should head to your lab, Caitlin suddenly speaks up, getting out of her trance and backing away a little, feeling a little embarrassed. Yeah. Let's go. Barry too comes back from his trance and is slightly embarrassed. Caitlin enters Barry's workplace and is fascinated to see the insides of the police station. Being a law-abiding woman all her life, she has never had to step foot inside this building. She is surprised seeing how busy the precinct gets, officers and workers moving around, busy, trying to get their work done. It's so hectic, Caitlin says looking around. It's a busy day, Barry answers. Wait here, I need to submit a report to my boss before we head up, Barry says zooming away and coming back in an instant, as if he never left. You weren't gone even for a second, Caitlin says. I'm glad super speed is now a thing, Barry says. Caitlin smiles and shakes her head. Mr. Allen, Where the hell is the fiber analysis on the Orloff case? Captain Singh asks, walking towards Barry. Right here, Barry hands him over the report in his hand. Singh is surprised to see Barry hand him the report on time. He then turns to look at Caitlin. Who's this? Captain Singh asks. AAA. Girlfriend. Barry blurts out, as it's the first thing that comes to his mind. Caitlin's eyes widen upon hearing Barry's answer. Even Captain Singh is surprised. He looks at Caitlin, who quickly recovers and smiles back at Captain Singh. I didn't know you had a life, Alan, Dr. Singh says, impressed by Barry's ability to find such a beautiful girlfriend. He then smacks Barry's shoulder with the report and walks back to his office. Once he is gone, Caitlin suddenly slaps his arm. Girlfriend. What were you thinking? She whispers while giving him her signature deathly stare. I'm sorry, it's the first thing that came to my mind, Barry says. You couldn't have said something else? Like a personal physician? Caitlin says as he follows Barry up the stairs of the precinct. Well, now that you mention it, it was obvious, Barry says. What are you going to say to him the next time he asks about me? Caitlin asks. I will just tell him that we broke up, no big deal, Barry suggests. Caitlin gives him a side eye and doesn't speak. They arrive at his lab and it's a mess. So this is your lab? Caitlin says, looking around. And that's where I got hit by that lightning, Barry says, smiling. Caitlin continues to give him her deathly stare, which makes him wipe his smile off. Let's get to work, Barry suggests, seeing that Caitlin is still pretending to be mad at him. He can tell that she is not genuinely mad with his comment, but he doesn't want to take chances. They then immediately begin working on the poison sample that Barry collected from the dead bodies that morning. Barry and Caitlin work effortlessly with each other due to their knowledge in the field. As Caitlin is working on extracting the results of their tests, Barry can't help but stare at her. Suddenly images of a lightning storm start flashing in his mind and he sees a familiar yet not so familiar face inside the storm. Barry! Barry! Caitlin calls him, snapping Barry out of his trance. Yes? Barry questions and sits up straight in his chair. You were. I felt like you wanted to ask something, Caitlin says, brushing her hair behind her ear. She thought Barry got lost staring at her. Why, I wanted to ask something, if you don't mind answering, Barry says. My least favorite kind of question, Caitlin says, looking at Barry. Shoot, she says. You were pretty shaken up back at Star Labs when Dr. Wells mentioned the particle accelerator. Can I know why? Barry asks. Caitlin looks at Barry and begins remembering the night of the particle accelerator once again. It's Ronnie. That night, he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to be there that night. He was just there for me. When the particle accelerator failed, Ronnie went down there to turn it off, manually. He trapped himself inside, to keep the explosion inside. Sometimes. I can't help but blame myself. If he hadn't. Caitlin says and begins tearing up. Barry gets up from his chair and approaches her. He then brings her closer and hugs her as Caitlin rests her head on his chest. It's not your fault. Sometimes people need to make hard choices, and from the sound of it, Ronnie chose to save you and the people of Central City that night. In my eyes, he is a hero, Barry says, consoling her as Caitlin sheds her tears. Suddenly the computer starts beeping, indicating the results are done. Caitlin moves away from Barry and wipes her tears with her fingers. Here, Barry says, handing Caitlin the same handkerchief she gave to him a few weeks ago. I'm sorry for. It's okay, I understand how you feel. Losing someone you love is never easy. It will always be with you, Barry says, rubbing her shoulder. The results, they are done, Caitlin says, trying to move away from the conversation. This says that there was no residue of gas in the tissue, poisonous or otherwise, Caitlin says, reading the result. It must have evaporated. We'll need to get a fresh sample, Barry says. Wait, this can't be right. This says that there are 2 distinct strands of DNA inside the tissue, Caitlin says, bringing up the digital reading in Barry's computer. How did someone else's DNA get inside the victim's lungs? Barry asks, looking at her. Let me try if there is a DNA match in the database, Barry says, and runs the DNA found through the program, but the program couldn't find any. I don't understand. Why would a chemical attack leave behind another person's DNA inside the victim? Caitlin asks when Barry suddenly has an epiphany. Poisonous gas that can target people individually as if it has its own mind, foreign DNA found inside the victim's lungs. There can only be one possibility. What if this metahuman doesn't control gas? What if he becomes it? Barry presents his theory to Caitlin, who too starts connecting the dots. All available units, we have a report of a toxic gas attack at the Central City shopping mall. Barry and Caitlin hear the police radio inside the lab turn on. Barry immediately gets up from his chair and gets ready to run to the shopping mall. Barry, stop, we don't know enough about what we're facing yet, Caitlin says, trying to stop him. It's not safe, she says sternly and grabs his hand. Like I said, Caitlin, sometimes people need to make choices. Everything I choose to not do something, people will get hurt. I have to go, Barry says, staring sincerely into her eyes. He then adorns his red suit at super speed and zooms out of his lab, leaving a very concerned Caitlin behind. On the run, Barry begins talking to Cisco. Cisco, update, Barry asks, pressing on his earpiece. According to witnesses, the gas attack was in the main elevator in the north wing, Cisco says. Got it, Barry says, and immediately shatters the sound barrier to reach there as fast as possible. Barry runs into the mall and quickly finds the woman who was attacked. He finds her already dead. Barry looks around among the sea of frozen people and sees a green color gas exiting through the fire exit. The gas is moving fast for it to be moving while Barry is tapped into his super speed. He immediately chases after the green cloud of gas. The gas begins to condense together and turns into a bald man. Barry immediately charges at the man, deciding to take him down before he begins questioning him, but to Barry's surprise, as he tries to tackle the man, he goes right past him while the man disperses into a cloud of gas. What? Barry is surprised. He stops and looks up to see a face forming inside the cloud of gas, smiling creepily down at Barry. Cisco, I can't get hold of this guy. What do I do? Barry asks. Hang on, let me think, Cisco says, trying to come up with something. Luckily for Barry, he has all the time in the world cause he is a speedster. The gas could form into a fist and tries to punch Barry, but he can easily see it coming from a mile away, and very slowly, he dodges and runs to the other side and stops. The cloud condenses again, turning into the bald man. Why did you kill that woman? Barry asks. She deserved to die. Now go run away. I still have one more name on my list. Don't make me add you to it, the man says, thinking he has become invincible ever since he got his powers. You got it all wrong here, buddy, you ain't going anywhere, Barry says. Let's see about that, the man says, and begins turning into gas again and starts filling up the whole corridor in his gaseous state. Cisco, I am still waiting, Barry asks Cisco for some way to capture this gas dude. I don't know, man. We have nothing on this guy. You should retreat for now, Cisco says. Cisco is right, Mr. Allen, get out of there before things get worse, Dr. Wells suggests. Well, it's already gotten worse, Barry says as he sees the gas approaching him. Barry can't run away now, by doing so he might be putting more people's lives at risk. And in this crucial moment, he thinks of something. Here goes nothing, Barry says, entering super speed. The world around him slows down. Even the large amount of gas that has almost filled up the corridor stops. Barry then spreads his arms and begins spinning in one place like a ballerina. Once he picks up his speed, he brings his hands together, increasing his speed further. Suddenly, all the air inside the corridor is sucked into a mini tornado that Barry has successfully conjured. The cloud of poison gas starts getting pulled into the tornado, but it isn't affecting Barry because he is inside it where air pressure is very low. The poison cloud man feels his entire being pulled into this tornado, causing him a lot of pain. Ah! He yells in pain. Even though he is in a gaseous state, his molecules are still connected. Getting sucked into this tornado will tear him apart. Barry continues to spin, and the speed of his rotation is getting faster. Lightning begins cracking around the mini tornado he has created. If not for the limited space that he is in, Barry would have easily created a tornado whose wind speeds would have far exceeded the F5 class. But why is Barry spinning so fast even though he doesn't need to? Well, he is not in control right now. His eyes have turned completely white and they are glowing as bright as the sun in the sky. White lightning is shooting out of them. Barry has tapped into the purest form of Speed Force. His true self. As for his consciousness, he finds himself back inside his lightning prison. I am back here. No. I can't get trapped here again. I need to go back, Barry shouts, and he suddenly regains consciousness again and gets back control over his body. He slows down and then stops spinning to find nothing around him as the mini tornado disperses. What have I done? Barry questions as realization dawns on him. He just killed a man. He spun so fast that the gas cloud man was forcefully pulled into his tornado and then pulled apart, molecule by molecule, until nothing remained of him. Barry! Barry! What happened? Barry hears Cisco's voice inside his ear. I think I just killed a man, Barry says, still in shock while Cisco and Dr. Wells go radio silence on him, not able to believe what he just said. Caitlin rushes into STA. A lab's cortex and sees Barry sitting on a chair, looking down at the floor while clutching his head. Barry, are you okay? She approaches him, seeing him in such a state. She places her hand on his shoulder to get his attention, but he doesn't look up at her. What happened? Caitlin looks at Cisco and Dr. Wells, who don't know what to say. I killed him, Barry says without looking at her. Caitlin turns to look at Barry, unable to believe what she just heard. Barry, it was an accident, Dr. Wells says, grabbing Caitlin's attention. Can someone tell me what just happened? Caitlin yells. While Barry was fighting our evil Meta, he lost control of his body while he was in the midst of a tornado he created to fight off the poison gas cloud. He spun too fast, creating a tornado strong enough to, Cisco says, separate the molecular bonds between the metahuman's molecules while he was in his unstable gaseous state. Caitlin finishes off his sentence. Barry, this is not your fault. You can't blame yourself for something you had no control over, Caitlin says, crouching down to meet Barry at eye level. He grabs Barry's face and makes him look at her. It's not your fault, she emphasizes heavily on every word. Barry doesn't know how to feel about this. He just wanted to save people with his powers, not kill them. What happens if he loses control again? What if he kills an innocent person next time? I need to think this all through, Barry says and disappears in a flash, leaving the team alone, worried. Caitlin especially is extremely worried for Barry right now. Ever since she met him, she had never seen him be so devastated. He always had a smile on his face, he was always positive, he always prioritized others over himself, and he was willing to do anything to help the people of this city and ask nothing in return. And he was especially there to make her smile and laugh again. Ever since the death of Ronnie, Barry is the only good thing that has happened to her. His arrival has made it possible for her to look forward to a new day with a smile on her face. So seeing that same man who always had a smile on his face, broken like this, made her feel extremely sad. We need to tell Joe, Caitlin says as she believes only someone very close to Barry can help him right now, and unfortunately, she is not that person. She can't be the emotional support and positive influence that Barry was for her during this past month, making her feel really guilty. Barry returns to his apartment devastated. He doesn't know how to feel about what he did today. Even though he was not in control of his actions, his ideals and morals still make it hard for him to accept them. In the end, it is his body and his powers that caused this. Now he doesn't trust himself with it. What if he loses control again and gets trapped inside his lightning prison for much longer the next time he uses his power? It would be cataclysmic. Maybe I should give up, Barry thinks and closes his eyes. After a while, there is a knock at his door. Barry gets off his bed and opens it to find Joe. "Joe," Barry says and lets Joe in. Joe enters his small apartment with heavy footsteps, as the talk they are about to have is heavy. Barry stays silent. He sits down on his couch staring at a wall. "I heard what happened," Joe says sitting down next to Barry. "You were right, Joe. I am no hero. I was getting way over my head. I thought I could do anything with my powers," Barry says. Joe looks at Barry and sees that he is devastated. "I understand what you are going through," Joe says. "I joined the police force to help people, to save them, no matter who they were. But reality hit me hard and made me understand that not everyone can be saved, and some don't deserve to be saved. There are people out there in this world who are nothing but evil. They cause unimaginable harm to people and their loved ones. And the man that died today is one of those people, Barry," Joe says, making Barry look at him. "His name was Kyle Nimbus. He was a death row inmate who was being executed on the night of the explosion. He was a hitman for the Darbinian crime family. He had a lot of blood in his hand, Barry, men, women, even children. This man was supposed to be dead long ago, but since he survived, now more people are dead. He doesn't deserve to be saved," Joe says. Barry now feels even more conflicted. Should he be glad that a monster like Kyle Nimbus is finally gone from this world, or should he still feel bad for killing a man? "How did you figure out it was him?" Barry asks. "Cisco found residues of hydrogen cyanide and sedatives on your suit, from which we were able to narrow down on Nimbus as he was being executed when the particle accelerator went off," Joe says. Silence follows and the two don't speak for a few minutes. "Then why does it feel so shitty? This man was bad, very bad, but why do I feel like shit even though I caused his death by accident?" Barry asks, looking at Joe. "Because, Barry, you see the good in everyone. Even evil people like Nimbus. That's what makes you special. That's why you being the savior of this city is so special, because the people of this city know that they can always rely on you, no matter the odds," Joe says. "Barry, the responsibility that you have taken upon yourself to be the savior of this city is a huge one. And trust me, this will not be the first time someone will die either directly by your hands or indirectly through your actions. And the only way you will be able to overcome this guilt that you are feeling is by knowing that every day, you are saving hundreds more people, giving them hope, and bringing joy to their lives. You were chosen to be a hero, Barry," Joe says. Barry finds comfort in Joe's words. He realizes what Joe is saying is right. If he allows himself to get consumed by guilt for killing an evil man, he will sooner or later get in his own way, which may lead to more innocent people getting hurt. But it's not just about Barry killing this man, it's also about his losing control over his power. What if it happens again? What if I lose control again, Joe? And what if the person who gets hurt is someone innocent? Barry asks. "Isn't that why you have a team? Those guys at Star Labs who are helping you learn about your powers better? If anyone can help you, it's them. When the people of this city need help, I know you will don your suit again and rush out to save them because that's who you are. But to do that, you need to learn how to control your powers fully, and for that, you need to head back to Star Labs," Joe says. Barry rubs his face with his hand and stares at his walls. He nods his head. "You are right. I need to be in control. I need to understand what happened to me out there," Barry says. Back at Star Labs, the team is again gathered to figure out what happened to Barry during his fight with the mist. That's what Cisco named him. Barry has his body probed with multiple wires while Caitlin draws some of his blood. She looks at him and he looks at her. They smile slightly at each other before Caitlin runs away to do some more tests. After a while, she comes back and looks at the team. There is nothing wrong with Barry. His body is in perfect condition. In fact, it's better than when he just woke up from his coma. His muscles, tissue, and bone density have all increased. His neurological system is also working better than before. It's like his body is evil. Evolving to keep up with his speed, Dr. Wells continues her words. So there is nothing wrong with Barry, physically or mentally? Joe asks. None that we could find, Caitlin says. Then what happened out there? Barry asks. Barry, tell me everything that happened since this very morning. Dr. Wells says. I woke up, went to work, then went to analyze the crime scene. After that I came here to Star Labs to inform you guys about another matter, then I took Caitlin with me to my lab. Wait a minute. Barry stops. Caitlin, this morning, when I carried you to CCPD, my powers flowed into you, Barry says. Caitlin, what's Barry talking about? Dr. Wells asks. We don't know what happened, but I was able to move and perceive the world and time the same way Barry does. It's as if Barry could bestow his powers on me, Caitlin says. How is that possible? Cisco asks. This power of mine. I don't think it exists just because I am a meta. Barry says, grabbing everyone's attention. This lighting I generate when running helps me ignore physics and common sense. Begin able to move people around at super speed, my clothes staying intact no matter how fast I run. Being able to momentarily make people move and perceive time the same way I do. Barry says while looking at Caitlin. I believe this is all possible because I derive my powers from this different dimension of infinite power that might be alive. Barry's words hang in the room as the team tries to process what Barry just said. The Speed Force. Let's call it the Speed Force. Cisco chimes in excitedly, coming up with a cool name. It does explain a lot of things, Mr. Allen, but please continue with the rest of your day, Dr. Wells says. Then, after I brought Caitlin to my lab, we began working on the evidence, and then... Barry stops. Then what, Mr. Allen? Dr. Wells asks. I fall into a trance. I saw storms of lightning, Barry says. Is that why you spaced out? Caitlin asks. She thought Barry was just staring at her that time and now she feels embarrassed assuming it. Barry nods. Then I heard about the attack at the mall, so I got there to confront Nimbus. Barry says. During the fight, I found myself inside staring at the same lightning storm again, and when I regained back control over my body, the fight was over. Barry says, rubbing his face. After a long silence follows, Dr. Wells speaks up. I think this Speed Force is trying to communicate with you, Mr. Allen. Communicate? Barry asks. Yes, this morning at your lab, you fell into a trace. You saw the Speed Force, but you fell out of it. During your fight with Nimbus, when you were the most connected to the Speed Force because of your speed, you lost yourself in it for longer. I believe it's trying to tell you something. To not lose control again, you need to figure out what the Speed Force wants before it pulls you into it once again during one of your fights, Dr. Wells says. How do I do that? Barry asks. Maybe the next time you fall into one of these trances, try not to fight back, Dr. Wells suggests. After the revelation, Barry finds himself confused and clueless. The lightning prison he thought to be just the afterlife turned out to be much more. Though he gets his powers from it, he doesn't want to return to it ever again. He spent an eternity trapped inside that infinite dimension. The only reason he was able to keep his sanity inside was because he had a goal, chasing after the lightning ball. He was then thrown out of there, so he is wondering why it's calling him back. It is trying to re-imprison him? How should he deal with it? Hey, Caitlin finds Barry sitting alone as he is contemplating his thoughts. He turns to look at Caitlin and smiles at her. Hey, he says back. Caitlin sits down next to Barry and joins him in his brooding session. They both sit there silently. Not a word is being said, but having each other beside them is helping a lot. Suddenly Barry chuckles and begins laughing. What? Caitlin asks, wondering what is making Barry laugh again. I just recalled what happened at the precinct with Captain Singh, Barry says, laughing. Caitlin joins Barry and begins laughing until they finally stop. I wasn't as angry as I pretended back then, Caitlin says. I know. How can you be mad at this face? Barry jokes. Caitlin looks at Barry and smiles, seeing Barry is back to joking with her. Yes, how can I? Caitlin says. So, you seem to be doing good right now. Caitlin says. Yes, Joe made me see things from a different perspective. He made me realize that I cannot drown myself with guilt if I want to continue being the hero this city needs, Barry says. Caitlin smiles, seeing Barry not blaming himself for Nimbus's death anymore. I am sorry. Caitlin apologizes out of nowhere. Barry looks confused. Why are you apologizing? Barry asks. When we started this team, I promised to be there for you in all situations, but today, when you needed me the most, I couldn't be there for you, like you have been there for me all this time, Caitlin says, feeling guilty. What are you talking about? Caitlin, you have always been there for me. Even before we even started saving the people of this city. You decided to stick around Star Labs and look after me while I was in a coma instead of pursuing your career. You sacrificed so much for a man you didn't even know. You inspire confidence in me. Every time I run out to save people or fight meters, I know that you will be there for me and take care of me if anything happens to me. Never ever think once that I won't need you, Barry says, taking her hand and placing it on his. He interlocks his fingers with hers. This, Barry says, showing Caitlin their interlocked hands. We are a team, Barry says. Caitlin smiles and nods her head. Enough about me. Now it's your turn to confront your feelings, Barry says, looking into her eyes. I don't know. Caitlin says, avoiding his gaze. You know that you can trust me, right? Barry says. Yes, I know, Caitlin says. Then you know that I will be by your side just like you are by mine, Barry says. Caitlin nods as she begins pondering on how to say it. Your last words before you left to confront Nimbus. Those were the same words Ronnie said to me before he left me that night. Never to return. When you said those words to me, I thought I might lose you too, Caitlin says. Barry tightens his grip around Caitlin's hand and looks deep into her eyes. This life that I have chosen for myself, and gotten you guys involved in, is filled with danger, but it also comes with great responsibility. No matter the situation, if the people need me, I will have to go. But I promise you one thing, I will always come back, Barry says. Caitlin is overwhelmed with emotions hearing Barry's words. Promise? Caitlin asks. I promise, I will come back to you, Barry says, as senior as possible. They both stare into each other, getting lost in each other's eyes. Their emotions are heightened by their conversation, adding to the tension that has been building up between them from the very first day they began talking. They begin inching closer. Caitlin's heart starts beating rapidly, and so does Barry's. Now their lips hover inches away from each other. Caitlin closes her eyes and Barry takes his chance. He goes in for the kiss. Their lips touch. Barry carcasses her face and parts his lips. Caitlin follows suit, parting her lips as well, and kisses him back. Barry slides his hand behind her neck and takes control. The kiss gets more passionate and Barry begins involving his tongue. Caitlin welcomes his tongue with her own. The kiss gets intense. Barry and Caitlin lose themselves in each other, savoring this moment with their locked lips and their twirling tongues. After a few minutes, they finally separate, leaving behind a trail of saliva. Caitlin breathes heavily and presses her lips together. She then looks away, blushing, as she didn't expect to get so carried away from that kiss. Barry smiles and looks away as well. He doesn't want to say something and ruin this moment. They sit next to each other in silence with their hands still interlocked. As Barry and Caitlin sit beside each other in silence, the kiss that took place between them felt so natural while they were doing it, but now that it's over and their emotions have calmed down a little, it's getting awkward. "I think it's time," Caitlin suddenly speaks up. Barry turns to look at her. "For so long, I've been terrified of going into that hole. But I think it's time for me to confront my fears as well," she says, looking at Barry. "Then I will go down there with you," Barry says, firmly holding onto her hand. "Thank you," Caitlin says with a smile. The reason Caitlin built up the courage to go down the particle accelerator and control her fears is because she realizes she finally has someone she can lean on once again. "Let's go," Barry says, getting up while still holding onto her hand. Caitlin follows, and they head down to the particle accelerator. Caitlin and Barry arrive down at the particle accelerator and look at the massive metallic door. Caitlin begins recalling that night, the night when her fiancé locked himself behind that door to save the people of this city. She remembers begging him to find a way, but it was too late. The chain reaction was set off and it had to be redirected upward into the sky so that the city didn't get nuked. He saved so many lives that day, and no one will ever know what he did, Caitlin says, feeling tremendous sadness for the man that she used to love. "I do, Cisco, and Dr. Wells do too. Ronnie was a hero who decided to put the lives of the people of this city before his own," Barry says. "I didn't want him to be a hero," Caitlin says, and begins crying. Seeing this, Barry hugs her and lets her cry out her pain. Barry returns to his small apartment and rag dolls on his bed. Today was very eventful. Both good and bad. Bad, he accidentally killed a man, but after the talk with Joe, he has come to realize that sometimes he will need to make decisions that go against his morals for the sake of saving more. Good. He kissed Caitlin, and she kissed him back. Barry smiles as he recalls his kiss with her, and then his mind wanders off to other things. Especially the Speed Force. What does it want from him? Hasn't it had enough of trapping him inside it for eternity and making him lose all his memories of his previous life? He doesn't know what else it wants from him. "Don't fight it, who?" Barry says as he repeats Dr. Wells' advice. Barry then closes his eyes and falls asleep. Harrison Wells is once again cooped up in his time vault, staring at the news article in front of him. Flash saves the world from Circes. He is getting really fast really quick. If he continues to grow at his current rate, my plan will come to fruition much faster than anticipated, he says, walking around. He then looks at the yellow suit encased behind a glass cabinet. But it also poses a severe risk. What if he gets faster than me? By interfering with the timeline, I have made the Flash much faster. His connection to the Speed Force has also greatly increased, so much so that it's trying to call out for him, but why? He questions. I was naive back then, thinking that changing the past would solve my problem, but no, it has made matters worse. I cannot afford to make mistakes now that the Flash is getting faster than my prediction. Every step needs to be taken with caution or I will lose my one chance of getting home, Wells says as he starts planning for the inevitable face-off with this new improved Flash. Barry opens his eyes and sees a familiar yet unfamiliar ceiling. It's not the same ceiling he saw when he closed his eyes last night. With a frown, Barry gets out of the bed and looks around. The room he is in also seems familiar, yet unfamiliar at the same time. Where am I? Barry murmurs, looking around. He looks at the wall and sees a picture. In it, he sees a man standing with a bunch of kids and a very old granny. Everyone in the picture looks happy. The kids have genuine smiles on their faces. The granny smiles contently as she looks at the happy children and, finally, the man in the middle. He seems happy being there, and the children are happy being around him. When Barry looks at this man, he feels as if he knows him even though he has never seen him before. What is this place? Barry asks himself as he walks around. He finds more pictures of this man with more children and the same granny. Other than pictures of the man, he finds action figures and posters of the Flash and other heroes in the room. Barry finds a mirror and looks at it but sees only a blurred reflection. What's going on? Barry says and runs out of the house. He finds himself outside. The roads are completely devoid of people and there is an eerie silence. He can't even hear the sound of the wind. Standing all alone amid a city street, he finds familiar yet unfamiliar again. Barry begins running around, trying to find someone or something. He sees shops and stores that feel familiar, but he doesn't know why. He feels he has been in them but cannot recall a single moment being here. Barry returns outside the same house he came out of. He ran around the entire block trying to find something, but the city was completely empty. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a motorcycle coming towards him. He turns his head and sees a man covered from head to toe with riding gear on a red motorcycle drive past him. "Hey, stop!" Barry says and runs after him. With his super speed, he should be able to catch up to this guy on a motorcycle, but to his surprise, the guy on the motorcycle is just as fast as him. The motorcycle leaves behind a trail of white lightning similar to Barry when he runs. With determination to catch the motorcycle rider, Barry increases his running speed, and so does the rider. They both cover massive distances in an instant before the rider finally comes to a stop outside an old building. Barry stops and sees the rider get off his bike and walks in. "Hey, wait!" Barry says, but the man doesn't listen to him. Barry follows the man inside the old building. Barry recognizes this old building. It's the same one from the pictures he saw at the place he woke up in. Barry follows the man inside the old building and finds himself inside a room filled with beds. The man removes his helmet and puts it on the bed that is at the very corner next to the window. It's the same man from the picture. He finally turns and looks at Barry. "Hello, Barry," the man greets Barry. "Who are you?" Barry asks, but something deep inside him already knows who this person is. "Remember this place? Doesn't it bring back memories?" the man says. Barry looks around the room and it does feel familiar. "Where are we?" Barry asks. "Come on, Barry, you know this place better than anyone. You just have to remember," the man says. "This?" Barry realizes something as he looks around. "This is a memory of my past life, the one I forgot," Barry says. "Bingo," the man says with a smile. "Why can't I remember anything?" Barry asks. "Well, you did spend an eternity trapped inside here." "It's no surprise that memories that were only a couple of years old disappeared," the man says. Barry looks around again and sees flashes of lightning. "This is the Speed Force." "You are the Speed Force," Barry says, and he finally realizes that he is inside the Speed Force once again. "You said I was trapped here for almost an eternity? How's that even possible?" Barry asks. The Speed Force is an infinite dimension where time is irrelevant. It has existed before the birth of the universe. In fact, it existed before the birth and destruction of countless universe cycles. The Speed Force has no beginning and no end. "You have been here all along," the man says. "Why?" Barry asks. "To protect ourselves," the man says. "You just said that the Speed Force is infinitely powerful. Why do you need protection?" Barry asks. "From forces of greater infinities," the man says. "Greater infinities?" Barry questions. "No, two infinities are the same. Some are bigger and some are smaller. We, the Speed Force, are one of the greater infinities, but there are infinities even greater than us. And some of these greater infinities are parasitic in nature. So we decided to create a physical anchor," the man says. And that anchor is me, Barry says. Indeed, now with you as a physical anchor. We the Speed Force exist both as a temporal force and a physical force, making us truly indestructible, and now we have become the greatest of infinities, the man says. So you are saying, I just don't harness the Speed Force. I am the Speed Force. Barry says, shocked by his own revelation. Yes, why do you think it took an eternity for you to get out of here? You needed to assimilate us, then become us, and then transcend us. The moment you surpassed us by catching the lightning, we as a whole ascended to a completely new plane of existence. Beyond the multiverse. Into the omniverse, the man says. But why me? Barry asks. Because only you had the potential to surpass the limits of our infinite power. We needed a soul that transcends destiny to become a part of us, the man answers. That face. Why does it feel so familiar? Barry asks. All you need to do is remember, Barry. You are the Speed Force. The moment you entered us, everything about you became a part of us. You just need to look for them, the man says. Remember. I need to remember. Barry murmurs and suddenly he switches places in an instant. He is now standing where the man was before, and as he looks up front, he sees himself. Barry Allen. He then looks down at his hand and sees that he is wearing motorcycle gloves. He touches his face and feels his hard beard. He then turns to look at his reflection in the mirror and he sees the man he was talking to staring back at him. It was me all along. Barry now realizes why this face felt so familiar. It belonged to him before he died and became the Speed Force. Suddenly, he hears sounds of laughter around him. The empty room is now filled with children playing around, hopping on their beds, chasing after each other, and playing with their toys. He then looks at the bed next to him. This used to be his bed when he lived in this orphanage. He was an orphan in his past life. He grew up surrounded by these walls. The scene changes again. He sees the granny from the picture. She is taking care of him. He sees himself reading superhero comics and being inspired to do and be good. He sees himself growing into a teen and carrying on the same passion. He then becomes an adult and begins contributing to the society. Helping the needy. Did charity work and donations, and always came back to his orphanage to help the children who lived there. But even as an adult, his passion for comic books never died. Flash was still his favorite superhero. He always wanted to know how it feels running so fast, and that is why he got into motorcycling. As it's the closest thing to running at high speeds. Who would have thought that his want for speed would kill him? But it also turned him into the Flash. It's all coming back to me, Barry says as he remembers his past life once again. His life as Stephen Myers. Barry opens his eyes again and this time he sees the ceiling he saw before going back to sleep. He is back in his apartment and he sees that the sun is out. I can't believe all this is real, Barry says as he now remembers his past life. I can't believe I am actually in the Flash TV show. Barry says. It also explains why I like Caitlin so much. I used to have a huge crush on the actress playing her. So much so that it was enough to override the feelings this body had for Iris, Barry says. Also, Dr. Wells, what a sneak bastard. I need to be careful around him from now on and make sure that he doesn't figure out that I know his true identity, Barry says, and looks at the time. I need to get to work, he says and gets ready in an instant before zooming out of his house. His speed now greater than ever. A few days go by since Barry has gained back his memories, and it feels a little weird having memories of two lives in one head, but it could have been worse. If he had his memories from the very beginning, he could have suffered from split personality disorder. Luckily, he got the chance to live as just Barry for a month and get accustomed to his new life before he learned the whole truth. After his grand revelation, he talked with his other half, the Speed Force, a few more times and learned a few more things about his powers and this body. First, he is now immortal, since he is the other half of the Speed Force itself. He cannot die, and neither can the Speed Force be destroyed. To kill Barry, not only does one have to kill his physical form, but also destroy the entire Speed Force at the same time, which is almost impossible as the Speed Force has transcended this multiverse and now exists in an even higher plane of existence. The Omniverse. Another thing he learned is that this new body of his will never stop evolving. The faster he runs, the tougher it will become. Also, this universe he is living in might not exactly be the universe he saw on the TV show. For now, everything looks the same, but his other half told him to be ready for massive unexpected changes. Of course, as one half of the Speed Force itself, Barry now has access to the past, present, and future. He can time travel to any time period and learn everything because he is now its master. But time is malleable. The past might get influenced by the slightest change, the present will be the outcome of these changes, and the future is just a shitload of infinite possibilities. It's best to not delve into matters related to the future. To learn about every possible future, Barry will have to spend another eternity inside the temporal Speed Force, which is not worth to risk in his eyes. Just as much as he is the other half of the Speed Force, he is also human. He wants to live in the real world, have a real life, and build a real family. Speaking of family, Barry needs to be in Star Labs right now, so he runs through the streets of Central City, keeping his speed within the speed of sound limit, which is 767 miles per hour or 1,236 kilometers per hour. Barry returns to STAR Labs and finds Caitlin, Cisco, and Dr. Wells in the Cortex. Barry's arrival gets their attention. "Mr. Allen, you are here. We should continue with your training," Dr. Wells says. Barry looks at him and wonders how can a man put on such a straight face while deceiving everyone around him. "What is it, Mr. Allen?" Dr. Wells asks. "Nothing, let's continue with the training," Barry says. "Also, Mr. Allen, have you had any encounters with the Speed Force recently?" Dr. Wells asks, as he piercingly gazes at Barry. "No, not since that incident," Barry refers to him accidentally killing the Mist. Today's training will focus on your mental speed and multitasking ability," Dr. Wells says, rolling away to prepare a few things for Barry's training. But Barry is much more interested in someone else right now. "Hey," Barry says, smiling at Caitlin. Ever since the kiss they shared, they haven't talked about it, mostly because Barry was busy dealing with matters related to his other half. But now he is ready. "Hi," Caitlin smiles back at him, but only for a second before walking past him. Barry is confused by her actions. This is the same Caitlin whose face would light up every time while talking to him. "Did I do something?" Barry questions, scratching his head. "Wait, is she mad because I didn't come forth to address what happened between us?" "Shit!" Barry starts panicking a little. He really likes Caitlin and doesn't want to mess this up. "Cisco, is Caitlin okay? Did something happen to her that I might not be aware of?" Barry asks Cisco just to confirm if her avoiding him is related to something else. "I don't think so." "Is something wrong with her?" Cisco asks back. "No. Nothing, I just thought, never mind." Barry dismisses it and begins his training. Barry runs around the lab doing multiple tasks simultaneously, playing chess with Dr. Wells, table tennis with Cisco, and the operation game with Caitlin. Though Barry did great keeping up with Cisco and Caitlin, he struggled a bit on the chessboard against Dr. Wells. As a speedster, his mind can operate at a much faster rate than any human. Barry enters super speed and begins calculating every possible move that he can make on the board and every possible response Dr. Wells has in his arsenal. And with his speed thinking, he manages to find the only way this game could lead to a draw. As for winning, he has no chance because Dr. Wells' position is a lot better. Unless Dr. Wells makes a mistake, which he doubts, this will end in a draw. Barry zooms to Cisco before the ping-pong ball goes over the table and hits it back, defeating Cisco. Then he runs to Caitlin, takes a moment to admire her, and continues the game before going back to Dr. Wells and playing a move. He has already thought of every move he can play, so now he just needs to go with the flow of the game. The chess game soon physically ends in a draw. Armed robbery at 4th and Collins, Cisco says as he sees a crime alert on the screen. We'll be back in a flash, Barry says with a smile and zooms away with his suit on. It doesn't take him long to reach the robbery site. He sees a group of men, fully covered from head to toe in thick armored gear, trying to rob the contents of a truck. It's your unlucky day, boys, Barry says with a smile and shows what super speed can really do. He gently taps the robbers one after the other, knocking them out cold. He then takes away their guns and cuffs them all up, before making them sit next to each other against the truck on the road. It all happened within a second. Barry stops. All done here, guys. Where are the cops? Barry talks into his earpiece. They will be there in a few minutes, Cisco answers. A few minutes. That's quite long, Barry says, swinging his arm and looking around when his eyes meet with the guard who was assigned to protect the contents of the truck. He was on his knees held at gunpoint just a second ago, and now his attacker is sitting knocked out against the truck, next to his robber buddies. The man can't believe what he just witnessed. It's you, the guard says, pointing at Barry. Hey! Barry says as he waves his hand at the guard. Barry wanted to stay behind and make sure that none of these robbers run away before the police arrived, forgetting that there is someone else here as well. The guard has already seen him, so there is no point running away. You are that blur that's been running around the city saving people, the guard says excitedly. Yeah, that's me. Barry replies. Hearing the enthusiasm in his voice, Barry can't help but smile. I knew you were real. I just knew it. Huge fan. He says, slapping his thigh in excitement. Thank you. Barry says. What's your name, dude? The man asks. The Flash, Barry replies. The Flash? I get it. It's because you come and go in a flash, Barry says together with the man. They then hear the sound of sirens approaching. All right, dude. It's time for me to leave. Barry gives the man a two-finger salute and runs away in a burst. Feeling the air hitting his face, the man smiles excitedly. That's so cool, he says as police cruiser stops next to him. Barry returns to Star Labs and high-fives Cisco as he is exiting the Cortex. Told you, we'll be back in a flash, Barry says, smiling and looking at Caitlin, who smiles back at him before looking away. He is confused again. It is very evident that she is avoiding him. Good work out there. Mr. Allen, quick and efficient, Dr. Wells says, rolling towards him. Well, they were just a bunch of regular thieves, Barry says. Indeed, they were, but someone saw you in action today, Dr. Wells says. Why, about that, I was caught in the moment, Barry tries to justify. It doesn't matter now. People of this city would have learned about you eventually, Dr. Wells says. Barry looks at Wells and wonders how long Wells would continue keeping up this act if his identity is never revealed. Barry also realizes that he needs to keep Wells' secret safe as well, because if he doesn't, the already screwed up timeline will get even more chaotic. He needs to keep Wells closer to him to make sure that he can always know what the man is up to and keep an eye on him. You are right, Barry says. Flash, huh? I like it, Dr. Wells says, smiling, and rolls away. Now only Barry and Caitlin are left in the room. Barry looks at her and decides to speak to her, but Caitlin suddenly gets up and walks past him. I have some errands to run, she gives a fake excuse. Caitlin, wait, Barry says, grabbing her hand and stopping her. Caitlin stops and turns around to look at him, but she can't maintain eye contact with him. What is it? She asks. I noticed that you have been avoiding me these past few days, Barry says, getting close to her while Caitlin stares down. I don't know what you are talking about, Caitlin says. You can't even speak to me while looking me in the eye. Tell me what's wrong so we can work this out, Barry says. I don't want to talk about it right now, Caitlin says. Is it because of the kiss? Barry asks her directly. Caitlin turns red as she looks up at him. What do you want me to say? She asks. Why are you being so distant? I thought we were dash. It was a mistake, Barry. That kiss, it happened because we both were overwhelmed with emotions. She cuts him off. Barry is surprised to hear her sharp words. I don't believe you, Barry says. I liked kissing you and I know you felt the same, so tell me the real reason why you are avoiding me, Barry asks, holding her shoulders. He doesn't believe a word that came out of Caitlin's mouth. Caitlin stares into Barry's eyes, and her expression softens. I can't do it, Barry. I really like you, but I cannot do this again. I know it's selfish of me, but I don't want to go through the same thing I went through with Ronnie. Unlike Ronnie, who was just a structural engineer, you go out there running to face danger every day, and every time you do it, I fear for your life. I don't want to get too close to you, and if someday something happens to you, I won't be able to live through it again, she says, tearing up. She then turns her back and leaves as Barry watches, scratching his head. His budding love story has been snipped right in the bud. Leonard Snart has been planning to steal the Karndak dynasty diamond for months now. He had planned for everything. He had even planned for his plan to go up in smoke as well and had a backup plan, but he could never have planned for what happened a few minutes ago. Before he knew it, he was knocked out cold during his robbery attempt. And now he is here, being stared down by police with his hands cuffed. You are going in for a long time, Snart, a police officer says, looking down smugly at Snart. Snart gives the officer his cold look as his attention is drawn towards a conversation. It was the red blur who had been running around the city helping people. 1 second, I was on my knees, held at gunpoint, and the next second, all of these goons were knocked out and cuffed. I saw him. He was wearing this very cool, red superhero suit. I asked his name. He said it's the Flash. I tell you, officer, he's one hell of a guy. Snart hears the guard chirp enthusiastically about this so-called Flash. Flash, whoever you are, I am going to get my get back, Snart thinks as he is lifted to his feet and shoved inside a police cruiser by an officer. Another new day is on the horizon, and Barry wakes up in his bed and stares at the ceiling. He is not feeling particularly good today because the woman he liked rejected him even though she likes him back. Well, I can't have myself beating over a dead horse, and Caitlin seems to still haven't moved on from her dead fiancé, Barry says, sighing. He looks at the time and sees that it's 8:55 a.m. He just has 5 minutes to get ready and be at CCPD. Luckily super speed can fix that. He gets ready in under a second and arrives at CCPD within 2 minutes. Barry, he hears someone call him front behind. He turns to see Joe walking towards him. Joe, Barry acknowledges him. About the armed robbery you stopped yesterday, Joe say. What about it? Barry asks. One of the robbers you caught was Leonard Snart, Joe says. Leonard Snart? That sounds almost as bad as Bartholomew, Barry says. He does have one grief with this new life of his. It's his legal name. It sounds like a Pokemon that only evolves once. Ha ha ha, that's true, but I am not here to discuss names, Joe says. What happened? Barry asks. Well, while he was being taken away from the scene, he escaped, Joe says. How? Barry asks, surprised, as he made sure to cuff every robber. He had some kind of EMP device hidden underneath his shoe. He detonated it, causing the car to flip, and he managed to escape. The officer driving is in the hospital, Joe says. Shit, I should have checked for everything after I caught them, Barry says. It's not your fault. The officers at the scene should have searched them before transporting them, Joe says. So where is this Snart guy now? Barry asks. He is hiding, but I don't think he will stay hidden for long. Snart has been deterred before, but once he goes after something, he doesn't stop until he gets it, Joe says. Well, Lucky for you guys, this time you have the Flash in your corner, Barry says, smiling. The Flash? Is that what you are calling yourself? Joe asks, giving him the side eye. What, you don't like it? I think it sounds cool, Barry says. Coffee break, Iris suddenly walks in on them with 2 coffees in hand. Though I would bring Central City's finest Java over to Central City's finest, she says, trying to flatter them, especially her dad. Thanks. I'm off caffeine, Joe says, walking away and giving Iris the cold shoulder. Iris sighs, defeated, while Barry takes a sip of the coffee, enjoying the cold war that is going on between Iris and her dad. My dad's been mad at me ever since I told him about me and Eddie, Iris says. And I am surprised he hasn't strangled Eddie yet, Barry jokes. Iris punches his shoulder for making the joke, but hurts herself in the process. Ah. Why is your arm so hard? She questions, rubbing her fist. Ah. I've been working out, Barry says. Since when did you start getting into fitness? Iris asks, her voice laced full of doubts. Well, almost dying makes you question your life choices, Barry jokes. That will do that. Speaking of life choices, after taking all those journalism classes, I got an idea, Iris says. What is it? Barry asks. I started a blog, Iris says with a proud smile. What's it about? Please don't tell me it's about the streak. Barry already figures this out because he remembers this conversation he is having with Iris from the show. Though he doesn't have detailed memories of the show, he has a rough idea of the plot. He calls himself the Flash, Iris says. The Flash? That's a nice name. Barry says, and of course, he likes it because it belongs to his favorite superhero, which he is now. I know, right? Something incredible is happening in Central City, and the people of this city need to know that there is someone out there helping them. Rumor has it that he stopped an armed car robbery yesterday. The guard of the truck talked to him and got his name, the Flash, Iris says. Like you said, it could just be a rumor, Barry says. Though he has no problem having Iris blog about him, he knows Joe is going to be a pain in the ass if Iris continues this. I was hoping that I could take a look at the file, and whoa, stop right there, I'm not going to discuss an ongoing police investigation with you, Barry says, dismissing her idea. Since when, Mr. Blabbermouth? Iris asks, almost offended by the ridiculous words coming out of Barry's mouth. His previous self has shared so many confidential police reports with her. Look, you do you, but trust me, writing about weird stuff on the internet is definitely going to attract some weirdos to your blogs, Barry says, smiling. Come on, help me out here, Iris begs. Knowing that if he doesn't help her, she will do something much more stupid, which might lead to more trouble further down the line. Fine, but don't tell Joe I helped you, Barry says. Thank you so much, Iris squeals happily and hugs him. Barry sighs and helps her with the robbery case for her blog. She will eventually become a famous journalist, and having a famous journalist as your personal PR is helpful. Iris leaves after getting what she needs, leaving Barry with a lot of work to do. Luckily, super speed has made life much easier than ever. He finishes all of his work before time and hands it over to Captain Singh, who is surprised by his efficiency. Keep up the good work, Mr. Allen, he says, giving Barry a rare praise. With nothing to do, Barry decides to go on one of his runs. Now that I think about it, I have never fully pushed myself. I wonder how fast I can really run, Barry murmurs to himself. Not wanting to alert anyone at Star Labs, Barry decides to go suitless. He finds an empty alley to start, and then he sprints. Lightning sparks in his eyes as he enters flash time, and then he bolts. He leaves a long trail of white lightning behind him while immediately breaking the sound barrier. This is just the start, Barry says, smiling as he hits Mach 2, then 3, then 4. His speed continues increasing as he completely leaves Central City behind him. Barry hits Mach 10, the fastest he has ever run till now, but but he knows this is nothing compared to what he can achieve. He decides to let go of the mental reins holding him back and taps into his origin. His other half. The Speed Force. Instantly Mach 20, then Mach 50. His speed keeps increasing. And then he finally stops after 4 minutes of running. His shoes suddenly burst into flames as he pushed them a little too much. The reason the Speed Force couldn't save them from the friction is because they were making direct contact with the ground. The amount of energy they observed was too much for his ordinary shoes to handle. Hot! Hot! She yelps and throws away his shoes to the side and watches them burn. I need to find a new pair of shoes, Barry says, and then begins looking around. The city he is in right now is much gloomier than his. What a gloomy-looking city, Barry says. What a gloomy-looking city, Barry says as he sees the clouded sky which is barely letting any sunlight touch the ground. The city, though massive, feels silent. Where did I run to? Barry questions himself as he looks around. Not wanting to walk around barefoot, he enters Flash Time, runs around the block, and finds himself a shoe store. He goes in and out in a jiffy, leaving behind some money while taking a used pair of shoes to wear. With a new pair of shoes on his feet, Barry walks around and finds a small roadside store selling newspapers. Curious, he walks up to it and picks up a newspaper. $2, the show owner says, glancing at Barry. Here, Barry hands him $2 and looks at the headlines. Joker escapes Arkham Asylum. Shit, I am in Gotham, Barry thinks, but he is also excited to be here. This city is home to one of the most famous superheroes of all time. This city is Batman's home. Now that he is here, he doesn't want to miss anything. He goes through the newspaper very quickly, as he did pay for it. He then puts it to the side and leaves. Barry takes his time walking around the city, experiencing Gotham for the city it is. While the richest part of the city is the most extravagant thing he has ever seen, the poor part of the city is way worse than he expected. Being the kind soul he is, he can't help but pity these people who are struggling to scrape by. Barry arrives at the heart of the city and sees people walking around, and traffic everywhere. This part of the city isn't any different from Central City. The part of the city where both Gotham's poorest and Gotham's ultra-rich have no business personally being here. Barry sees a particular skyscraper standing taller than others, with massive bold letters spelling Wayne. I wonder how many people know his real identity, Barry thinks with a smile. Suddenly, he hears sirens behind him. 2 police cars drive past him in a hurry. I should look into it, Barry thinks and enters Flash Time. He uses his super speed to run on the walls of the tall building to not attract the attention of the crowd as he follows the 2 police cars. After following them for a few minutes, they finally led Barry to the crime scene. There seems to be a robbery in process. Some rich dude just got robbed. While the police get out of their cars and rush up the building to confront the culprit, Barry notices something the police don't. Someone just jumped out, breaking the glass of a tall skyscraper from the very top. As he plans to run up to save them, he sees this person shoot a grappling hook and swing toward a different building to make a clean escape. That's the thief, Barry realizes and rushes towards the culprit. No matter how skilled this thief is, nothing can match super speed. He runs up the building and comes face to face with the culprit. And when he sees the thief, he is surprised. It's not a man, but a woman. A woman in a tight black latex suit that tightly hugs her sexy body, and she has a cat-shaped cowl over her head. Holy shit, it's Catwoman, Barry realizes who this thief is. Even though he can't see her entire face, he can tell she is one beautiful woman. Her striking green eyes, juicy lips, and sharp jawline. The face hidden beneath that cowl is definitely beautiful. Well, I can't discriminate even if you are one of my favorites, Barry thinks. He respectfully searches her and finds a very expensive-looking necklace which is definitely made of some very expensive stones. Time for me to take you to your rightful place, Barry thinks and grabs Catwoman and then runs her down the building. He arrives in front of the police officers who have already gathered in front of the building. He places Catwoman down, walks up to a police officer, takes 2 handcuffs off him, walks back to Catwoman, cuffs both her hands and legs knowing how resourceful she is, puts the stolen necklace around her neck so it's visible to the officers, and then gets out of there in a flash. Selina Kyle aka Catwoman scored big today. Knowing that the Bat patrols the city at night, she decides to switch her game and rob during the day. And it was successful. She got her hands on a piece of jewelry that will go for millions. She struck rich. The only thing she is worried about is the Bat, but she is confident in her skill to get away from the scene before the Bat arrives. But something unexpected happened. A moment ago, she was on top of a building making her escape, and now she is in front of a few police officers who are staring back at her as confused as her. She looks down and sees both her hands and feet are cuffed together and the necklace that she had hidden between her bosom is suddenly around her neck. What the hell just happened? She questions wide-eyed. Get her, one officer yells. The police rush her and grab her. She tries to fight back, but with both her hands and legs cuffed, there is no escape. The police smile as they have finally gotten their hands on the notorious Catwoman. Barry watches from afar with a smile on his face. Though he loves the character of Catwoman, he can't let a criminal escape. With a bright smile on his face, Barry continues to walk around Gotham with enthusiasm. He has read about this city in comics and seen it in multiple movies, so how could he not be excited seeing it in real life? Gotham is probably the most famous fictional city in his past life, and now he lives in the world where it is situated. So Barry zoomed around the city visiting some of the famous places in Gotham. He already saw Wayne Enterprise. He checked out Gotham Academy on his way to Arkham Asylum. Standing a distance from the asylum, Barry felt as if he were looking at a haunted castle. Just looking at it gives me the creeps, Barry says and wonders which of Batman's famous rogues might be locked up inside. He already knows that Joker's not inside since he escaped. Let's get out of here before somebody spots me, Barry thinks and disappears in a blink. He then visits the Iceberg Lounge, a famous nightclub owned by Oswald Cobblepot, aka Penguin. Since it's a nightclub, he can't go in right now. Barry then goes to check out Wayne Manor. Knowing how vigilant Batman stays, he doesn't stick around and just runs past the manor to see where the famous Bruce Wayne lives. I wonder how a real-life Batcave would look, Barry thinks while running fast. Barry takes a few more minutes running around the city, checking everything he can, and also helping a few innocent people who were being victimized on the way. Though only a few minutes for the rest, a long time for Barry. Hours later, Barry finds himself a nice cafe to sit down and drink some coffee, trying to get over a few things. He thought about Caitlin, and how a potential romance could be ended before it even started. As he thinks about it, Barry smiles. Sure, it stings a little to be rejected by the girl you like, but Barry is different now. He is a whole other person. He is not going to wait for someone who is not available. He is going to move on because there are infinite worlds out there and infinite possibilities, and as a Flash, he is able to do a lot of things. Someone else in the city. A man looks at the massive screen in front of him with a frown on his handsome face. He was notified of multiple reports about citizens of Gotham City being saved in an instant. He also saw Selina being caught by the GCPD, which is a shocker because he doesn't see a single scenario where the GCPD is able to catch the Catwoman when she is in action. She plans all her robberies meticulously and is highly skilled in getting away. She has even managed to shake off the Batman from her tail multiple times. The man slowly switches through multiple videos from around the city until he finally sees something. A single flash of lightning was caught in a single frame of a video. It was enough for the man to conclude what was happening in his city, and he soon got to work. Barry decides to stay the night in Gotham as he wants to see what Gotham is like at night. Gotham is a city that comes to light at night. Just how alive? Barry will have to witness it by himself. He did make sure to inform his team, and Joe, that he is away from the city to take a break for himself, but he didn't tell them that he is in Gotham. And if there is really an emergency, he can always run back in super speed. Barry rents a room in a local hotel to stay the night. He gets out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist, his ripped muscles in full display. He walks up to a mirror to dry himself when he suddenly sees a reflection of a man standing on his window. Barry immediately taps into his super speed and looks at the man in the reflection. The man is tall and muscular, but it's his clothing that's very eye-catchy. A black cowl with two pointy ends, a full-body black suit with the symbol of a bat on the chest, armored gauntlets and boots, and a long black cape. It's freaking Batman, Barry thinks. Though Gotham is Batman City, Barry wasn't sure if he would see Batman because in the TV show Batman never appeared, but he was also not 100% sure that Batman doesn't exist because his other half told him that this world is not the same as he saw in the TV show. Okay, calm down and talk to him. I have no idea why he is here. Well, I may have some idea as to why he is here, Barry thinks and gets out of flash time and turns to look at Batman with a shocked face, trying his best to act shocked. Holy shit, it's Batman. You are real, Barry says, shouting while pointing at Batman. Why are you here? Batman asks with his raspy, deep voice. I didn't do anything. I don't know what you are talking about, Barry says, trying his best to keep his act up. Batman gives Barry his signature death glare, making Barry gulp. He now understands why all those heroes and villains shut their traps once Batman glares at them. The dude is intimidating as hell. Though Barry is 1000% sure he would whoop Batman's ass. He doesn't want to do it because he is a good guy. Stop pretending. I know who you are, Batman says, entering Barry's hotel room. I know who you are, Batman says as he enters Barry's hotel room and approaches Barry. That Batman knows who I am? You know me? Barry Allen? Are you a fan? Have you gone through my cases? Barry asks, pretending to be clueless. I know you are the Flash, Batman says. The Flash, what's that? Barry asks, as the world still doesn't know if the Flash exists or not. His existence is still a mystery. To this day, only one person other than the team and Joe has seen him in the flesh. It's the truck security guard he saved yesterday. Seeing that Barry wants to continue with his act, Batman decides to make him act. Batman reaches for his utility belt and throws a batarang at Barry. Barry sees Batman perform all his actions in slow motion, but he doesn't act because any movement from him would give him away. He just hopes that Batman won't really throw the batarang to his face. But when he sees the batarang leave Batman's finger and approach his face, he sighs. Looks like Batman really knows his identity, but he doesn't expect anything less from the world's best detective. Barry catches the batarang just as it is about to touch his forehead. The world returns to normal in his eyes, and he sees Batman staring at him. Dude, what the hell? What if I wasn't the Flash? You would have killed an innocent man, Barry says as he checks out the batarang in his hand. It's lightweight and sharp. With these things around his waist, why would he even need a gun? I was 99% sure you were the Flash, Batman says. How did you find out? Barry asks. I have been keeping an eye on Central City ever since the particle accelerator explosion. Soon after, weird anomalies started to take place around the city. 9 months later, the red blur showed up at the same time you woke up from your coma. My satellite frequently detected frequent supersonic booms triangulated at 3 points, one CCPD, one Star Labs, and one which I assume is your place. You work at CCPD as a forensic specialist. During your coma, you were treated at Star Labs. Your name is registered as a tenant for one of the apartments where the sonic booms triangulate. All 3 places, one common factor. You, Batman says. Barry is impressed, hearing Batman's method of finding his identity, but he is also not surprised. He is Batman, after all. All right, you got me, I'm the Flash, Barry says. Now answer my question. What are you doing in my city? Batman asks. Nothing. I just ran up here, that's all, Barry says. You ran from Central City all the way to the other side of the country, for no reason. Batman questions. He doesn't believe Barry. Why? It just happened. I wanted to see how fast I could really run, and before I knew it, I was here, Barry says, scratching the back of his head while giving Batman an awkward smile. Batman stares at Barry for a few seconds before turning his back and leaving. Wait, that's it? You are just gonna barge in, ask questions, and walk away? Barry questions. Batman stops and turns to look at him. Don't cause trouble in my city, he says, shoots a grappling hook at a building's top, and flies away. Barry smiles as he calms his heart rate. It was quite an experience. He expected Batman to be more menacing, but the dude left him alone after asking some questions. He must be a fan of my work, Barry thinks with a smile. Now that he is gone, Barry finally can put some clothes on. It's nighttime and Gotham City is livelier than ever. Barry is on the streets as he marvels at how the city seems completely different. Unlike its gloomy day, the city seems even brighter under the artificial lights produced by the city's infrastructure. But at its core, Gotham is much worse at night. Crime skyrockets to another level, and even though the criminals fear Batman, he is just one man and he cannot be at all places. Barry understands this, but he wonders how much should he get involved with this city. If Barry fights back against the criminals of this city, they might come to fight him back on his own turf. He wonders if it's okay for him to bring more trouble to Central City. 5 minutes go by and Barry is already confronted with an armed robbery. A thug is trying to rob a couple at gunpoint. Barry sighs as he cannot ignore this. He enters flash time, walks up to the thug, takes the gun out of his hand, and hands it over to the man being robbed. He then walks away and watches from a distance. Suddenly all three of them are shocked as the gun that was in the thug's hands is now in his victim's hand. Immediately realizing the situation, the victim points the gun at the thug. The thug immediately bolts out of there, freaked out by what just happened, leaving the couple relieved. They don't understand what just happened, but they're glad to be safe. Barry smiles seeing this, and walks away. And before he can even take his time to enjoy the city's nightlife, he hears sirens blaring as multiple cop cars rush past him in a hurry. Seeing how urgently the cops are driving, Barry realizes something big is happening, so he decides to follow them. Barry follows the large force of police, who are hurrying through the streets of Gotham while blaring their sirens. The people walking on the streets wonder what has caused the police to get so riled up for them to be in such a hurry, but the people immediately put the matter aside as this is a recurring scene in the city of Gotham. Barry finds the fast-moving police cars very slow. If he continues running at their pace, it will take him an eternity to reach the crime scene. So he decides to apply another method. The world around him comes to an instant halt, and he begins running, breaking the sound barrier in his very first step. Hitting incredible speed in an instant, he begins covering every part of the city within seconds before he finally stumbles upon the supposed crime scene. He sees police cars parked outside a large warehouse and police officers have completely barricaded the entire area, surrounding every side of the warehouse. Barry sees police officers taking cover behind their own police car doors while they have their guns pointed at the warehouse. Looks like a very tense situation, Barry thinks, as this is a lot of police. It feels like a terror attack. Without giving it a second thought, Barry runs into the warehouse without a single officer realizing. Barry enters the warehouse and sees pure carnage. Over 100 guys, all wearing clown masks and weapons in their hands, and their target, 2 people who are trapped right in the middle. They're back against each other as they face the entire horde of clowns. It's Batman and Robin. With everyone frozen in time because of his speed, Barry sees the awkward stance of both Batman and Robin. Though they are extremely good fighters, facing over 100 men all at once is taking a toll on their bodies. They have already managed to take out half of their assailants, but from the looks of it, they won't survive for long. They need to get out of here. Luckily for them, the world's fastest man has arrived at the scene. Barry looks at the clown-masked goons and cracks his knuckles with a smile and then walks up to them. With Flashpoint in play, he walks up to every good and lightly taps them to knock them out, because if he punches someone at the speed he is walking around, he will explode their heads. After lightly tapping everyone, he walks up to Batman and Robin, turns them around, grabs both of them while enveloping them inside the Speed Force, and then takes them out of the warehouse. Far away from the crime scene. Inside the warehouse, all clown-masked goons immediately suffer from a blackout and collapse on the ground. While far away from the scene, Batman and Robin suddenly experience something they have never felt before. The scene in front of their eyes completely shifts from a horde of crazy, psychotic goons to an empty, dark alleyway. Robin suddenly feels his world spinning while Batman is very composed. "Shit, that was close," Barry suddenly speaks, grabbing both their attention. Robin flinches, jumps back, and takes a defensive stance while Batman slowly turns around to look at Barry. "Who are you?" Robin shouts with his electric batons in hand. Before Barry could answer, he smelled burning rubber. "Come on, not again," Barry said as he looked down at his new, used pair of shoes, catching on fire. He immediately removed them and threw them to the side. "I didn't need your help," Batman says in his usual rough, deep voice. "From the looks of it, you two were getting your ass handed by those clowns." "You were clearly outnumbered," Barry says. Batman just grumbles without saying a word, glaring at Barry. "Who is this guy, and how did we get here?" Robin asks, still confused by the sudden change of scenery. "You must be Robin." "I thought you would be a lot smaller," Barry says, looking at the teenager dressed in red and green with the iconic black and yellow cape. "So, what next?" Barry asks, looking at Batman. "You go back to your city," Batman says, glaring at Barry. Barry, being caught up in all the excitement, realized that he had no business being here. "I can do that, but I can also help you deal with your problem, you know," Barry says. "I don't know, and I don't need your help," Batman says firmly. "Okay, fine, I will just go back to being useful in Central City, take care," Barry says, giving Batman a two-finger salute before running out of the alley with a boom. "Holy shit, did you see that?" Robin shouts as he sees Barry run away at super speed. Batman doesn't say anything, but deep inside, he is grateful for Barry helping him. That warehouse was a trap the Joker set for him. He got careless and risked both his and Robin's lives. If not for Barry, he and Robin would not have come out alive. He was completely fine dying doing what he does, but he would never be able to forgive himself if something happened to Robin. "Let's head back," Batman says and disappears from the alley with Robin. Barry goes back to his hotel and decides to head back to Central City. With the commotion Joker has caused, the city seems to be shutting down. If there is anyone that can turn this city upside down, it's that psychopath. Barry doesn't stay around to help Batman because Batman told him to. He might be a fan of the man, but that doesn't mean he is going to stick to him like some desperate fanboy. And since it's Batman, Barry is sure he will take care of this Joker crisis like he has always done. Confident in Batman's ability, Barry runs back to Central City. Barry returns to Central City and finds it still bustling, even at night. Returning to a city that he is familiar with feels great after spending a day in Gotham. Even though the city of Gotham was quite a sight, Central City still feels the best as its home. The next morning, Barry goes to work, and everything seems fine and dandy. His absence yesterday doesn't seem to have caused any issues. Benefits of super speed, Barry says with a smile, as getting all his work done early ensures he can take such breaks occasionally. With more new case files on his desk already in place, he begins getting to work again, when suddenly, Joe walks in. "Where did you go yesterday?" he asks. "I just went for a run," Barry says. He is not going to tell Joe that he ran all the way to Gotham and met the famous Batman, who people still believe is a myth. Went for a run? Where? Joe asks, raising his brows, giving Barry a questioning look. Well, I got my work done early yesterday and took a break afterward. Just to calm down my mind, you know. Barry says. Joe gives him a weird look, but doesn't question him any further. Instead, he hands Barry another case file and tells him to look into it before walking away. Barry just smiles and gets back to work. The next few days go by as usual. Catching criminals, stopping robberies, and putting out fires. After living in Central City for a few months, Barry finds out that a lot of fire takes place in this city. He had to deal with a lot of fires these past few days. But having the team flash in his ear made it easy for him to handle. With his speed, Barry started to find a balance between his real work and superhero work. His relationship with Team Flash was also getting better. His friendship with Cisco was getting stronger as they started binge-watching a lot of sci-fi and fictional movies and TV shows together. The awkwardness between him and Caitlin was also fading away, as Barry didn't make it hard for her. Sure, he likes her and is attracted to her, but he is not going to chase someone who is not ready. In the end, it was just a kiss. Though the awkwardness had reduced a lot, there were still some moments where Barry and Caitlin would find themselves in which they couldn't run away from, but overall things were getting better. As for Barry's relationship with Dr. Wells, he kept his act on about not knowing Dr. Wells's true identity while Dr. Wells continued to play the role of a cripple. The lives of people around him were also changing very fast. With his new self no longer trying to be there for Iris all the time, she is getting much closer to her boyfriend Eddie than ever. Every time Barry meets up with Iris, he sees her being happy with her life. But it's not just the people around him whose lives have changed during these past few months. The people of Central City are experiencing it as well. Every day, more and more people are starting to believe the Flash is real as some of them witness a very fast blur run past them or save them. Barry has saved a lot of lives till now, and these people are thankful to him. It's been 2 weeks since Barry visited Gotham, and Batman seems to have successfully dealt with the psychotic clown and returned him to Arkham. Barry knew this would happen because Batman has better plot armor than anyone. Even Superman isn't a match for him when it comes to plot armor. But this made Barry wonder, does he have plot armor? Since he is now a superhero, he should have won, right? Well, he has not experienced it yet because his super speed allows him to take care of most problems with extreme ease. Done with his day job, Barry runs to Star Labs and meets up with the team, and they continue with his training. Barry holds back a lot during his training as he doesn't want to alarm Dr. Wells about his massive surge in speed ever since he realized who he really is. Barry is so fast right now that he believes he can run circles around any speedster. Suddenly, the crime alert in the Cortex starts to blare, alerting the team. Robbery at Customs Warehouse. Looks like it's Grand Theft Auto, Cisco says, smiling as he just named out a game. Barry smiles back at him, puts on his suit in a flash, and runs to the location of the Grand Theft Auto. All right, Cisco, keep me updated, Barry speaks into his upgraded earphones. Now, he can listen to the team speak to him even when he is running faster than the speed of sound. You need to get there quick, the police won't be there for at least 2 minutes, Cisco said. 2 minutes? It will be over before they even get there, Barry says carkily and shatters the sound barrier and hits higher speed. Barry arrives at the customs warehouse and sees something weird. The warehouse gate seems to have been shattered. That doesn't make sense at all, as it's made of metal. Barry runs in and sees a lot of expensive cars, supercars, luxury cars, custom handcrafted cars, but there is no sign of any perpetrator. Then, suddenly, something weird happens. Barry loses his footing, and he slides across the entire warehouse floor at super speed and crashes into the wall, breaking it in the process. AOQWWWWW. Barry grunts in pain, as this is the first time something has caught him off guard. but thanks to his rugged, strong body, he hasn't suffered any serious damage. Barry! What happened? Are you okay? Barry hears Caitlin's concerned voice in his ear. I am fine. Just crashed into a wall, nothing serious, Barry says as he gets his ass out of the rubble. He is suddenly hit by a beam of frigid coldness from the back, catching him off guard. Barry feels pain at super speed. His neurons fire warning signals to his brain that something has made contact with his body faster than the speed of light. Barry is very fast, and he is fast enough to recognize this danger and run away before whatever hit him does more damage. So, Barry taps into his speed and tries to outrun the thing that has made contact with just the surface of his skin. But Barry loses his footing again, and he slides across the floor once again before crashing into another wall. Barry! The team gets concerned as they notice unusual spikes in Barry's vitals in their systems. Barry is confused. He looks down at the floor while he is still down and finally realizes why he is losing his footing every time he tries to run. The floor is covered with ice, but the layer of ice is so thin and smooth that it's transparent, and with the absence of light, it makes it even harder for Barry to see it. Crashing into walls twice at super speed is not something people can walk away from alive, but Barry can. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Suddenly, he is hit again with a strange beam. He tries to get away, but the icy floor underneath his feet doesn't allow him to run away. He gets hit by the bright, cold beam. Barry screams in pain as he feels the cold beam damage his suit and then burn his skin. Groaning, Barry places his hand against the rubble and turns his body over the broken ice layer to look at his attacker. He sees a man with very short hair, wearing thick goggles and a dark blue coat and holding a very intimidating-looking gun in his hand. Nice to meet you. Flash, the man says, walking towards Barry. Barry looks at his feet and sees that he is wearing spiky shoes, allowing him to stand on the icy floor. Barry felt the frostbite pain on his skin, but his healing factor was doing its job, and he was healing fast. I forgot about this dude, Barry thinks, seeing the man. He finally realizes who this is. Leonard Snart. He thought the name was familiar, and now it's kicking in. Leonard Snart, Captain Cold. And who might you be? Barry asks, even though he knows who this man in front of him is. He can't believe that a guy with a gun got the upper hand on him. Well, he was getting cocky, but the trap Snart put on for him is very good. An icy floor in dim lighting, how could Barry have seen it or guessed? You might not know me, Flash, but let me remind you who I am. You remember the robbers you stopped a few weeks ago? I was one of them, Snart says while keeping his distance from Barry, but he is not that far either. So, you want revenge? Is that it? Barry asks, smiling at Snart. Snart sees the smile on Barry's face and smiles as well. You can consider it as revenge, but this is something more, Snart says. What could a petty criminal like you want other than revenge? Barry tries to rile him up as his mind is working at super speed to think of a solution to deal with this slippery floor. I am no petty criminal, Flash, and I just proved it by taking down the fastest man alive, Snart says, not bothered by Barry's provocation. Now what, are you going to kill me? Barry asks. Barry, what are you doing? Get out of there. Barry can hear Caitlin screaming at him, but he ignores her. If he can get away from here, he can easily catch this dude. The problem right now is his mobility. Guys, I am fine. It's just some normal dude who wants to play supervillain, Barry speaks into the comps while smiling at Snart mockingly. Provocation won't work on me, Flash. But I do want to say something before I put an end to you, Snart says. What do you want to say? Mr. Guy with a gun. Barry asks, but his mind finally thinks of something that will get him out of this mess. Funny guy, but serious Flash. I want to thank you, Snart says. Thank me, after blasting me with an ice beam? That's very sweet. Your girlfriend must be lucky. I wonder how you express your feelings to her, Barry says as he continues to provoke Snart. Snart smiles, amused by the man in front of him. You helped me up my game, Flash. Make me think outside the box. With more superhumans like you showing up, I need to up my game as well, and because of you. I learned it the hard way when you caught me. So for that, thank you. Flash, Snart says. You are going to make me cry with your sweet words, Barry says while his body finally heals up completely. Because of the ice beam, his healing had slowed down a little, but not by much. His body is constantly evolving and adapting. Next time, if he gets hit by one of these ice beams, he should be fine. Suddenly, both Barry and Snart hear the sound of police sirens getting near. You are a funny man, Flash. I am sorry for this is your end, Snart says, raising his ice gun to shoot at Barry, but Barry has already figured out a plan. Lightning flashes in his eyes, and he enters flash time, and everything around him comes to a stop. Barry places his foot amongst the broken rubble to get some support. He then looks at both his hands and begins vibrating them at incredible speed. His hands turn into a blur. This should work, he says and places his vibrating hand on the icy floor. Barry sends high-velocity vibrations into the floor, which releases an incredible amount of energy. And then he sees it, the thin layer of ice that Snart had carefully applied to this floor crack under his hands, and then the cracks immediately start to spread across the whole room like a spider's web. And as Barry returns to normal time, he sees the cracks spread across the icy layer in an instant and suddenly explode, sending tiny sharp shards of ice everywhere. Leonard immediately covers his head with his hands as he hears the sound of the shattering ice. He feels some of the ice hitting him, but luckily for him, he has a thick coat on. As Leonard brings his hands down to see what just happened, he sees Barry standing on his feet with a smile on his face. Ah, shit. Leonard Snart says as he is smart enough to realize that he is screwed. Indeed, Barry says, smiling before walking up to Snart at super speed. He takes the ice gun off his hand and then uses his own coat to tie him up as he doesn't have any cuffs on him. In an instant, Leonard was holding his ice gun, and now he is tied up in his own coat. He gives the Flash an annoyed look. You win this time, Flash, but I will get you next time, Snart says. I doubt it, Flash says with one final smile on his face before running out of there. The police soon arrive at the scene and see tiny broken ice shards everywhere, and right in the middle is Leonard Snart, tied up in his own coat. Barry returns to Star Labs with his torn suit and the ice gun in his hand. He runs into the Cortex and stops, creating a strong burst of wind and alerting the team. They all turn to look at Barry and see him tattered, and his suit messed up. My suit! Cisco shouts as he sees a large gaping hole in the side. The ice beam had frozen the suit solid on the side, so when Barry moved around, it shattered like glass. Are you okay? Caitlin rushes towards Barry's side to check on him but finds nothing except a slight bruise on his oblique. What happened out there? Caitlin says, carefully checking on his bruise. Luckily, she didn't see this wound when he got hit by that ice beam, or Caitlin would have flipped out on him. He had suffered from third-degree frostbite, but his super healing kicked in and only left behind this bruise, which will soon disappear as well. This happened, Barry says, showing the ice gun to the team. As Cisco's eyes fall on the ice gun, he immediately recognizes it. It shoots some type of cold beam. When it hit me, it affected my speed healing. I had to distract Snart by smack-talking him for a few minutes to recover a little to fight back, Barry says. I wonder where he got this thing. From what I know, Snart is just a thief. He doesn't have the smarts to make something like this, Barry says. Well, that thing was made by Star Labs, Dr. Wells says. It was made here. Barry asks as he slowly starts recalling some of the memories from the TV show. Dr. Wells had nothing to do with this. I made the gun, Cisco says, taking all the blame on himself. Cisco looks hella guilty and is unable to maintain eye contact with Barry. Dude, what's going on? Barry asks, looking at Cisco. I built it as a contingency against you. Speed and cold are opposites. Temperature is measured by how quickly the atoms are oscillating. The faster they are, the hotter it is, and when things are cold, they are slower on the atomic level, Cisco tries to explain. I understand that. When I am cold, I slow down, Barry says, looking at the gun in his hand with fascination. Look, I didn't know who you were back then, Barry. I mean, what if you turned out to be some psycho like the other metahumans we encountered? Cisco says. I understand. You don't need to explain why you built it. If I were in your position, I would have done the same. Knowing what I can do, I would be scared too if a guy I barely know and trust had super speed, Barry says. You understand? Cisco asks, surprised. He thought Barry would flip out knowing that he created something that could hurt Barry, but Barry seems a lot more understanding. Of course, dude. What I am curious about is how Snart got his hands on this thing. Barry asks. I don't know, somebody must have broken in and stole it, Cisco says. Looks like you need to up the security around here. Take it and make sure that it doesn't get stolen again, Barry says, handing the gun back to Cisco. Cisco is surprised by Barry's nonchalant attitude. He literally almost died today, but his reaction to his almost death is very mild. Come with me. I want to run some tests and make sure there are no internal injuries, Caitlin says. Lead the way, Barry answers and follows Caitlin away. Cisco and Dr. Wells watch Barry and Caitlin leave the cortex. I didn't expect him to be so chill about it, Cisco says. He really thought shit would hit the fan, but Barry handled it very maturity. Indeed. Dr. Wells says, as he feels that the Flash he knows is a little different from the Barry she is seeing now. The Flash he knew was emotional, but the Barry now was very logical. He even noticed the calmness Barry displayed during his fight against Leonard Snart. Something about this Barry Allen irked him. How much did my action in the past change him? Dr. Wells asks himself as he starts to notice the little changes in Barry's behavior. Mind you, this man has been stalking Barry for the past 15 years, watching his every step like the creepy stalker fanboy that he is. If anyone is going to notice the slightest change in Barry's attitude, it will be his most obsessed fanboy. Caitlin and Barry arrive at the med bay, and Caitlin starts examining Barry's body. He sits shirtless in front of her and watches her take test after test. As Caitlin does this, she can't help but keep checking out his physique. She notices that Barry's body has changed since the last time she saw him topless. She notices the increase in his muscle size and leanness. Barry is now looking like a fitness model you would see on social media who shows off their perfect body. Most of those are altered through Photoshop, but not Barry's. All his muscles are legit. Caitlin does her best not to get carried away while trying to calm her beating heart, but Barry is sharp enough to notice her predicaments. Seeing her act like this makes Barry conflicted. He can clearly see that Caitlin likes him a lot, and if he did push a little, he might actually get her, but he wonders, should he? As much as she likes him, she is also conflicted about her feelings between him and her dead husband. So Barry doesn't know if he wants to deal with that. He is sure that this conflict of emotions that she has within herself will arise in the future, and he is not sure if he wants to be a part of it. Caitlin runs some more tests on Barry and finds nothing wrong with him. Again, she is surprised by the state of Barry's body. His body has gotten even better. Barry's body is now definitely in superhuman territory, even without his speed. Still finding it hard to talk to me? Barry asks as he notices Caitlin trying her best not to get personal with him. Caitlin stops whatever she is doing and looks at Barry. It's not like that. It's just... You don't need to explain yourself. Look, you don't want this to happen, Barry says, waving his finger between him and her, so I am okay with it. We just kissed once, and it happened when our emotions were heightened. So don't bash yourself over it. We are still friends. Barry ends his speech with a smile. Caitlin smiles back at him and nods her head, but deep inside, she feels some kind of loss. She wonders if she made the right decision rejecting Barry. There is no point second-guessing herself, the ship has already sailed, and Barry seems to be okay with them just being friends. "Thank you," Caitlin says. Barry smiles back at her. "So, how are my readings?" Barry asks, deciding to change the subject. "Exceptional. You had actually suffered from a third-degree frostbite, but your body managed to heal itself perfectly within minutes. Your regeneration ability has gotten even better, and your body is in much greater shape than before," she says as her eyes fall on his chiseled body. "Stop drooling over my body, Miss Snow, and hand me over my t-shirt," Barry teases her as he catches her staring. "I was not," she defends herself while handing Barry his t-shirt, clearly startled by his comment. "Sure, you weren't," Barry says with a teasing smile before leaving the medbay. A few more weeks pass, and the existence of Flash is starting to get the attention of the city officials. They can no longer deny that there is someone out there running around at super speed, saving people. But they don't know how to deal with this anomaly. Do they just let this blur run around taking justice in its hand, or should they step up? And even if they do decide to step up, how do they catch something they can't even see? While the city continues to fuss about the Flash as his name starts being mentioned all over the internet, the man in question can be found running through the city at night, trying to stop an ongoing robbery. This time, the thieves seem to have gotten their hands on some high-tech supercars, and the police are struggling to catch them. But no matter how fast these cars are, they are not as fast as the Flash. With Team Flash in his ears, he soon catches up with the speeding supercars. No matter how fast the cars are driving, they still seem to be standing still in Barry's eyes. He approaches the cars and finds the door shut tight. There is no way he will be able to stop these cars without damaging them. Just as Barry was trying to think of a way to stop these cars without severely damaging them, he felt something press against the side of his neck. At first, it's just a little pressure, but then he feels a sting. His neurons are firing at the speed of light, warning him about something trying to penetrate his neck. Barry immediately brings his hand to his neck and stops whatever is trying to pierce through him. Stopping the object before it penetrates even deeper, he looks at it and realizes that it's a bullet. Surprise flashes in his eyes as he realizes that someone was able to shoot at him while he is moving at super speed. He is still not running as fast as he can, but still, to actually shoot at him while he is moving at super speed is inhuman. Barry immediately turns to look in the direction from where the bullet came, but he sees nothing. Suddenly, he sees another bullet coming right towards him. He only saw it while it was a few meters away from his face. The night's darkness managed to mask the bullet. Barry catches the bullet and then directly runs towards the direction from where the bullet came. But even after covering over 2 miles of distance, he doesn't find anything. "Barry, what's going on?" "You just ran miles away from the thieves," Barry hears Cisco's sped-up voice. With how fast he runs, Cisco made the device in Barry's ear to speed up everything they tell him and slow down anything Barry says while running at super speed. But Team Flash still has human limits. For them to have a conversation back and forth, Barry has to wait a lot before he gets a response from his team. "Someone just shot at me," Barry says, stopping to talk properly with the team. "Shot at you? While you were running?" "Nice joke," Cisco says. "I am not kidding, dude. I just caught 2 bullets, one of them almost penetrated my skin," Barry says. "Are you okay?" Caitlin questions, worried. "I am fine." "Where are the thieves right now?" Barry asks. Since he can find the man that targeted him, he should at least stop the car thieves. "They are not far away from you. You should be able to catch up to them," Caitlin says. "All right," Barry says before entering flash time and going after the thieves. He soon catches up to them and breaks the windows of the supercars to drag the thieves out of the car and apprehend them. He couldn't think of any other way. It might cost some money to repair these shattered windows, but the cars will continue to be in fine condition.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.